Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Coll. I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson. Keith,
Good
happy
evening,
Monday.
Daniel.
How's it
Good
going?
evening. Good. I'm delighted to be joined by Craig Swan, who is always very good to have along. Swanee, how are you?
Good, gentlemen. How are you?
Very
All
good,
right.
thanks.
Well, you say that, but I spent all day today running down various managerial rabbit holes, trying to get on top of exactly what is going on, or what, probably more aptly, is not going on in the Rangers hunt for a manager. So I'm sure we'll likely to discuss that. And our colleague Scott Burns is about to get a story online which updates the situation as well. But it feels very much like nothing continues to happen.
Well, I mean, the Rangers played Dundee United, on Saturday
Yeah.
at Ibrox. So to call this a pressing issue would be underselling it, I think. Why don't we start with that then, Keith? I mean, Danny Rohl remains the favourite.
Yeah.
But what more can you tell us?
Well, I'll defer to my colleague Scott Burns, who is writing a story, and I find it really interesting. There's only been one conversation with Danny Roll, according to Scott's sources, and although it went well, Rangers have yet to decide if they want to have another chat. Now that's interesting because, and I think Scott will allude to it in his story, that there might be dissenting voices inside the command centre at Rangers. And I think there seems to be a suggestion that, hold on, perhaps we should be looking for somebody with a bit more managerial experience. And I think that seems to be the conversation that's taking place right now. And there does seem to be some internal backing for Kevin Muscat. But that's interesting because as of late this afternoon, as far as I'm aware, and I'm fairly certain that information is right, there's been no attempt to reach out to Kevin Muscat or to set up a talk, set up talks, or to initiate a discussion of any kind. So, that you'd think with time being a bit of an issue now, if they were wanting to try and have a discussion with Kevin Muscat, and let's not forget, Kevin Muscat did get through to the interview process at the time when they selected Philippe Clement. He was very, very keen on the job at that moment in time. He's now in the Chinese Super League. He's sitting top of the table with Shanghai Port just now. I think there's only about 4 games to go, but I think that extends all the way through towards the end of November. Would he be willing to walk away from that? Who knows? But also, and I think I mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago, something that's been a bit misreported in terms of Kevin Muscat is, the Chinese season ends in a few weeks from now, but he's got another year in his contract. So if Rangers were to make a move there, that would obviously involve a fairly large compensation fee. Slaven Bilic appears to have entered the running, and certainly in terms of what the bookies are saying, I'm always wary of that because that all, Swanee knows better than me. Somebody sticks a fiver on, and all of a sudden the odds come tumbling down at a stroke. So I can't at this moment in time. I don't know how serious a contender Slaven Bilic would be if he is at all. And then of course the constant obvious one that's sitting right in front of everybody's face is Derek McInnes. And my information again on that, as of late this afternoon, there has been no attempt made by Rangers to start a conversation with him either. So for all those reasons, Danny Rohl would still be in position A, given that he's at least got in front of them and had a chat. But a 36-year-old guy with not even 2 full seasons under his belt as a manager, and the 1 full season that he got at Sheffield Wednesday, he finished 12th in the Championship. I said it last night, I say it again. On what basis would that qualify him to be involved in discussions about becoming the next Rangers manager? It looks like a ludicrously high level risk factor attached to that on the back of what's just happened with Russell Martin. So that's the state of play. and it'll be fascinating to see, because clearly moves will have to get made. I think it's gone midnight now in Shanghai, so unless they're going to get Kevin Muscat out of his bed, unlikely for anything to happen on that front over the next few hours. But you would imagine if there is a willingness or a wish to involve him in the conversation, somebody somewhere needs to pick up a phone.
We've got plenty of comments coming in. If you want to get involved, let us know what you think of the Rangers managerial situation. We'll also talk a little bit about Scotland later on as well. Swanee, one of the comments early on from Scott says, one conversation with Rohl, that doesn't sound like they're all in at all. And it doesn't really, does it?
There's so many strands to what Keith spoke about there that are just worth picking up on. We touched on Hotline Live on several occasions. It was hard to imagine. Rangers could hardly appoint Russell Martin and then the following week be looking for who his successor was going to be. They could never have planned that they would be having to go on the hunt this quickly. However, I think it's been fairly evident for quite some time that it wasn't happening for Russell Martin, and there had to be some sort of knowledge that it was going to be another bad result or the next one's going to be the time up. They must have known a good 2-3 weeks ago that this has got the potential to go pear-shaped, and already had the feelers out. Football clubs never cease to amaze me at the fact that this result at Falkirk is just something like, I'm going to have to get rid of the manager. I better start looking. As if this is just... The Rangers supporters have been telling the Rangers hierarchy, basically from the minute Russell Martin walked in the door, but certainly for the last 4 weeks, you best start looking for a new manager, guys. So everything that Keith's telling us here, you find hard to comprehend in the fact that they aren't further down the road. So you're thinking to yourself, is there someone that we don't know about that they are down the road with that we haven't been able to uncover as yet? Who knows? We don't know. These guys are new in the door at Rangers. We don't really know their workings, how they go about things. We're told Kevin Thelwell's a man of football. He should have the contacts. He should have the people. He should be able to get to folks. So you can only look at it from the outside and say the Russell Martin thing is almost like, okay, we just did it. Went to Steven Gerrard. That'll be an easy fix. Steven Gerrard knows the club. Great. The fans like him. That's handy. Oh, no. Steven Gerrard said no. now what? And... like I say, if that was just one bot, if Russell Martin had turned around that day at Falkirk after winning 8 games in a row and said, look, lad, something's come up in life, I'm going to have to walk away, then you can understand them being stumped.
Mm-hmm.
But this didn't happen in a day.
That's incredible. It's mismanagement, Swanee. You're absolutely right.
And it really, I mean, to be in a situation like that, the only caveat I'm going to put to it is there someone they're miles down the road with? But I'd like to think the majority of us lads are not too bad at our jobs, and I'm sure somebody would have found out.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't seem to be the case at this point. It really doesn't.
Yeah, honestly, Swanee, the kind of you're looking now. You're going to the obvious places. Where's the obvious kind of place that they might look to start a conversation, and there's no conversations taking place at any of them.
Yeah,
and that is staggering, given that here we are on Monday and Rangers have got the D United at Ibrox at the weekend.
Yeah, there's two things there, Keith. The one thing I would say is you're in such a short time frame. The guys they might be going to now are guys that know they were overlooked in the summer. Straight away. You think, well, you come to me now? Now, that depends, and people might say, well, it's Rangers, of course they'll accept the job, but we've spoken about it before, the influx of players that have come in the door since Russell Martin. The new manager's going to have to cope with that, whereas before he would have been able to maybe set his own stamp and get his own 20, 25 million pounds worth of players in. Now he's not. Now he's lumbered with these ones. That moves the goalpost for those guys as well. And the other thing is, this Dundee United game on Saturday, Rangers fans just forget about that. Just forget about it. This appointment is so important that it doesn't matter if they need to go 1 or 2 weeks without a proper appointment. This has to be got right. Can't just get someone in to make sure they're in time for the game on Saturday, and you're back in a Russell Martin situation in 3 weeks from now.
The only thing I'd say, Swanee, I think you're absolutely right in terms of, well, if you got into that job in the summer, then you might have been able to influence what the sort of rebuild looked like of the squad. I'm not sure that you would have. And anybody that was, putting themselves forward as a potential candidate back then was putting themselves into a process where they probably knew that. that
Yeah.
they would have zero influence
That's
on.
fair comment, Keith. That is fair comment. Yeah.
So if Danny Rohl, let's just say Danny Rohl had taken the job in the summer, he'd probably have exactly the same group of players to work with as he's got just now. Because clearly this whole thing, this whole new setup, it's almost designed to devalue the position. You're no longer Rangers manager. Don't come in here thinking you're the manager. You're not. You're a head coach, and we make the big decisions. And that looks to have been a sort of bespoke creation to suit Kevin Thelwell. Because he wants to be the guy in charge. He wants the head coach to be answerable to him, and he doesn't look for. He's not looking for what you would say is a more established manager. For that reason alone, I'm not really surprised that nobody's thought about picking the phone up to Derek McInnes, because I don't think that conversation is going to end happily if they did, because I'm just not sure that Derek McInnes would want to go in there, first team coach, answerable to Kevin Thelwell. We think that this is the same set of issues which, even though Stephen Gerrard was prepared to fly to London, out of courtesy to sit and have a chat with him, at the end of the day, he wasn't having that either. And that's where they're going to have a real problem, because the people that will accept those sort of terms and conditions are the guys that, you know what, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
And the other thing,
and that gets you another Russell Martin Mark too.
Yeah, sorry, Keith, I didn't mean to break in there, but I was kind of getting to that point that I think you just basically said it at the end, that it could be, if that is the model that the American ownership want. I mean, it's something that's been popular around Europe in recent years. It's sort of trendy young managers, and that's the thing, and bring them in and, work under the director of football. And if that's the way they want to go, you may have a situation where Russell Martin couldn't pull it off, but they may not be willing to blow up the whole thing, if you know what I mean. As you allude to, Keith, they've got a plan and this is how they want to do it.
Yeah.
And just because the first guy failed at it, you don't bin the full plan. You go for the next one in line in that kind of planning. But that goes back to your point, the Rangers fans at the moment are screaming for an experienced head and somebody knows what they're doing, and we don't want to go down the same road of a young coach, but that might just be the way they've set it out. And for the things that you've outlined, Keith, with Kevin Thelwell in possession and how it's worked, that might be the way that Rangers are going to go. But that does make it fascinating, the fact that the chats came with Stephen Gerrard. But to me, that just felt like here's a guy that's available. It's a quick fix. The fans will like it. But
yeah,
and to me, that was what that looked like.
I tell you what, though, Swanee, there's a major fly in the ointment with all this, right? So I accept that this is the Americans. Andrew Kavanagh, he's come in, he's put his money where his mouth is. He's wanting to build this structure. This is what he thinks the football club should look like. I get all that. See, if you've got the wrong guys in the key positions, you've not got a chance. You've not got a chance. Yeah. And if Kevin Thelwell's judgment is as flawed as it certainly appears to be, then it's madness to carry on with that. Go and find somebody that's got a better set of skills when it comes down to decision making. Mm-hmm. Because if you follow this, and I wrote it in my column today, if he chooses the Kevin Thelwell hill to die on, then his own reputation as the leader of the organisation, the owner, the chairman, that's going to end up in tatters as well.
Yeah, always used to be these football managers only as good as his recruitment. I mean, that goes up the chain as well, as you've just alluded to, Keith. If you're a big, powerful football owner that doesn't have the time to be dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, you're delegating and you're appointing people into those positions. You're only as good as those positions, the guys that you appoint. And if they're no good, it lands on you. So you're bang on. They've put their stock in Kevin Thelwell, and they're going to have to trust him to get it right.
I tell you that would become interesting if they do decide that they want to have a conversation with Kevin Muscat. That then becomes interesting as well, because I've had dealings with Kevin Muscat. I don't think he's the sort of guy that's going to accept that he'll be told, that he's pretty far down the chain of command here, and that Kevin Thelwell's the top man. I don't think that would sit particularly well with Kevin Muscat, although obviously he has got history. He's moved around a bit, and I'm sure they've got very different styles of how they run their football clubs in the Far East and Australia. So maybe it is something that he could handle. But I think if you don't have faith in the guy that you're working underneath, that's an obvious issue from day one, isn't it? And it's probably why Steven Gerrard, having made the 5,000 mile trip, whatever it was, got back in the plane and went back to Bahrain.
We've got tons of comments coming in, guys, already. And if you want to get involved, please let us know what you think of the Rangers managerial situation. Let me run through a few of these and get your take on it, because there is so many. Mark says, as a Celtic fan, the only one I'd beat who would concern me is Muscat, who's a winner, similar to Ange. Wonder who he's upset at Ibrox. James says, please tell me Muscat is on his way to Glasgow, or we'll get a dislike. Come on, James. Let's play fair.
Trying our best here, James.
I know. Luke says, I take Muscat, get him on the plane pronto. Our old pal Gianni Keith says, Paolo Vanoli seems the real front runner, according to his sources in the mountains of Italy. We'll maybe come back to that. But Gravy says, what planet are the Rangers?
Paolo Vanoli is doing a good job in Italy just now, though, isn't he?
Nice. Well, look, Gravy says, what planet are the Rangers hierarchy? Derek McInnes is the man for the job. Derek also follows it up by saying it has to be Derek McInnes or Stephen Robinson. That's a no-go. Then Muscat, then Lampard, in that order. And finally, Rangers Is He OK says, I actually think Danny Rohl is a good coach and I preferred him in the summer to Martin, but it's not the right time. If he comes in and doesn't get results, people are ready to go absolutely berserk.
Well, here's the obvious problem if you're Danny Rohl, right? And if, for that matter, if you're Kevin Thelwell. You've looked at the process, you've looked at all the candidates, and you've decided in the summer that Russell Martin was a better bet for the job than Danny Rohl. That's undeniable. That's the set of circumstances. And I know that there might be, if Danny Rohl was still at Sheffield Wednesday, there was the talk of some sort of compensation. But remove that from the issue, because this is Rangers. If it's going to cost you a couple of bob to get the manager that you think's the right man for the job, then you go and you pay it, right? So Russell Martin, according to Kevin Thelwell, was a better bet for the position in the summer than Danny Rohl. And now, a few months down the line, Danny Rohl is presented. So Kevin Thelwell was effectively saying to the Rangers supporters, look, Russell Martin was better for the job then. So here's the guy that I didn't rate as highly as I rated Russell Martin, and you can just have him. How do you sell that? And how are the Rangers supporters, what are they meant to do? How are they meant to react to that? Well, the guy that you didn't rate as highly as you rated Russell Martin, who was a complete disaster, you're now saying, we'll need to make do with this.
And the same probably goes for some of the other candidates as well, not been mentioned.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about earlier. They'll know that they were overlooked 2 months ago.
We've got I've got a list here of the favourites. You mentioned it, Swan, the bookies' favourites. You can see their role is still the out-and-out favourite to take over from Russell Martin. Slaven Bilic is second favourite. Kevin Muscat, McInnes, Barry Ferguson. And then further down, Graham Potter is a name that's been mentioned today in a few outlets. Ralph Hasenhüttl as well. Gary O'Neill.
Well, that's a good idea. Go to Southampton and get a guy that we had a really bad time at Southampton and give him the job.
That's a great idea. But the reason why I'm putting it up, Keith, it kind of smacks to me as though you don't really have a clue who their preferred first choice is.
We'll put that list up again.
Yeah.
Barry Ferguson.
Right, so
Really?
Danny Rohl, yes.
Why not? Why not Barry Ferguson?
Well, do you know what? I think
Neil Lennon took time to get going at Celtic. It took him, he had to make mistakes before he learned his way, and then he got there. And he got it right in the end.
Swanee, there's a school of thought that you could say to Barry Ferguson, we're in deep trouble here. Would you be prepared to take this job just to the end of the season? And by the way, in springtime, if you've been terrific and it's all going well, we can sit and talk about a contract. But would you be prepared just to take it on in the first instance until the end of the season? That would be an option. But Dan, put the list back up again, please. Sorry to mess you about.
I don't think that's fair on him, Keith, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he did that job at the end of last season. You give him it, you don't.
But I'm saying to you, I think that Barry Ferguson would accept it on those terms.
Yeah.
Right, so Danny Rohl, at least he's been spoken to. Slaven Bilic, not as far as we're aware. Kevin Muscat certainly hasn't. Derek McInnes certainly hasn't. Barry Ferguson certainly hasn't. So there's your, of 5 of your top 6 or whatever it is, they've not even had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Graham Potter's name is there. There was a suggestion last week that he was somebody that was approached but asked not to be considered for it, along with your Sean Dyches and and these guys. So yeah, I find it staggering. You've got a list there of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 names on the bookies list, and we know that 3 of them 100% haven't been spoken to. The other one is probably a 90%er, and one of them has been spoken to, but spoken to once.
And see on that as well, I mean, Swanee, Hearts fans won't like me for saying this, but whether or not Derek McInnes would take it as another issue, surely you go and ask the question. Surely you at least go and say, look, Derek, would you be interested?
Or are we wasting our time?
Aye.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose the question would be first, do you go to, it would only be right and proper to go to Hearts first.
Of course.
Under no circumstances is this guy leaving here. Then maybe that just negates it. We all know how football works, of course we do. I mean, that's not me being super naive. But, you know, if you're in a situation where Hearts and man, Tony Bloom would be a very tough man to deal with, I would imagine. Especially given the situation the Hearts are in at the moment, how they've started and what he wants to do there. He's actually talking about upsetting the apple cart of Glasgow. Why on earth would you entertain in any way, shape or form your manager getting in to prop one of them up?
Well,
Actually putting a lid on you doing it.
Do you know what you do the Swanee? As you said, you're not naive. What you do is you establish, is there a release clause here?
Indeed.
What's the compensation package look like?
Indeed.
That's what I mean. That's the question.
Then either that says, right, okay, that's not an option.
Yeah.
Or you say, right, okay, well, let's talk.
Yeah.
And you match the compensation. Now,
Yeah.
It's my belief that Rangers haven't even asked those basic questions there. So I don't know what that tells you.
Yeah.
There's a few people in the comments, Keith saying Luke was one of them, saying there's a 500k release clause. That might obviously just be rumours. A lot of people
Unless Luke wrote the contract.
You never know. A lot of people agreeing with you, Swanee, about Barry Ferguson. Seems to have a bit of support in here. The Sweeney says if they kept Barry, we wouldn't be in this position. And it's worth mentioning, Keith, he was obviously a guest on Hotline Live last week.
Yeah.
We did ask him. We said, look, if the call came, he said he'd be lying if he said he wouldn't take it. So, I mean, it just seems so mad that it's so late in the day.
I think he's Barry's being genuine when he says that I think he's quite happy with his return to the life that he knew before his world got turned upside down, and he was given that opportunity as an interim capacity last season. I think he is. I think that's perfectly genuine. I think he is. He's able to go on holiday when he wants. He enjoys his column of the record. He enjoys doing a bit of pundit stuff, and he actually really enjoys his position as an ambassador. So for all these reasons, he's not going to push anything else. But I think I know him pretty well, and if Andrew Kavanagh or anybody else from the board actually picked up the phone to him and said, you know, would you make yourself available for us if we needed you? Would you take this till the end of the season? I think I've got a fairly good idea that he would find it impossible. And he's said himself on the show the other night, you know, he's a Rangers supporter, so if there's anything that he can do to help, he would do it. He's just not going to push his own cause. But if Rangers asked him the question, I think I know what the answer is.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Swanee, isn't it? I mean, but to have not asked the question is what's really galling, I think, at McInnes and Ferguson. It does make you think that maybe there is someone in the background that we're not aware of.
Yeah, nice.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Maybe giving them far too much credit there, to be fair.
Glass half full.
Yeah, listen, it's just such a... I feel like we say this, or we have said this every time Rangers have been in this situation in the past 5 years, that the next appointment, they have to get it right. Like broken down records, you always say that, but you really do need to get this one right. And do you know what? If it's a case of Barry Ferguson going in for 4, 5 months, 6 months, just to identify, find, get the right guy, the guy they want, for whether it brings down the money for the release clause or whether it gets them to an out of contract situation, whatever it may be. But if Rangers see one that they think really is the guy, but you might have to wait 4 or 5 months for it, then so be it. Surely that's a better option than just ploughing in again and going through this whole cycle. Now, I don't know. I personally think it would be really unfair to ask Barry Ferguson, having done that, to do that again for another 3 or 4 months, as I've just alluded to. I think if you come back to him this time, you've got to ask him to do it full time. He's done that, but he's bailed the club out once before.
Yeah.
But as Keith said, he's such a Rangers man that he probably would do it just to help.
Aye.
I think Swan,
Rangers cannot ham-fistedly stumble into something again and make a mess of this.
Yeah.
No,
They
this
probably
time.
will.
Well,
But I think the case with Barry is that I think inside his own head, he would be confident, because I think that they were implementing decent changes. I think that club was moving back towards a little bit what Barry Ferguson, Neil McCann, Alan McGregor, Billy Dodds, what they knew it to be from when it was successful, when they were players there. And they were trying to move it back to make it feel more like that. So you know, as opposed to just, here's a guy that's handy and he's ambassador, so we could just bring him in. I actually think there's some merit in it, Swanee. And if he got that extended period, perhaps by the time they would get to the end of the season, they'd look at it and go, wow, this whole club is in a much healthier position, and it's got a better feel to it than it had when it was broken to pieces at the start. So there is some merit in that. And all I'm saying to you is, Swanee, that I think Barry's, one, he's passion for it, but two, he's got confidence in himself. So I think if he took the job, he would. I think the only stipulation he'd say is, well, I'm not coming in to do it for 3 months again.
yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
At least give me a full run at this till the end of the season, and then you can judge. Then you can judge the work. And is that a conversation? Well, I think that is a conversation they should. I think that's a conversation they should have been having on day one when they decided that Russell Martin had to go, because there was every prospect of what you just might be about to see round the corner, which is Rangers going back into the domestic scene without a manager appointed. And that just adds and feeds into the feeling that it's just chaos, it's a shambles. So on day one, when you make that decision with Russell Martin, surely you want to be having a conversation with Barry Ferguson saying, Barry, any chance you could get the band back together here if we can't make an appointment in time for Dundee United? And that would have provided a little bit of certainty. It would have meant there was a coaching team in place. You know, I guess I'm tripping my own argument up there, because I think at that point Barry Ferguson would say, well, yeah, I'll do it, but I'll do it to the end of the season if you want me. Yeah. But it's a conversation that hasn't taken place. So, you know, there's
I would never have envisaged it, Keith. I must admit, I would never have envisaged that. I thought, like, you know, when the summer came in the new owners, and that was the direction that we're going to move in. The only reason I'm sort of bringing it up is they were quite prepared to jump back to the past for Steven Gerrard.
Yeah,
that was breaking from what I thought was going to be the mould. And Steven Gerrard's incredibly popular with the Rangers supporters. We all know that. I think Steven Gerrard won 1 trophy in 9.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't like he absolutely ripped it up and he was automatically got to be the first call to bring back. You know, there was obviously a thought that going back to an ex-guy and that. So that was the only reason it came into my head about maybe Barry Ferguson could be. I wouldn't have thought it in the summer when they made that move to Russell Martin, and that was the direction they were going to go to. I never envisaged they would go back that road to Steven Gerrard. I never thought that would happen.
I tell you what, Swanee, you raise an interesting point. That Barry Ferguson is more experienced now, greatly more experienced now as a manager than Steven Gerrard was when he was initially headhunted for the job the first time round. But do I think it's going to happen? I'd be surprised.
No, I don't.
But I rule nothing out, because I do think that they're genuinely all over the shop at this minute in time. And there was another thing that I wanted to throw in there. And
the fact they tried to rush Steven Gerrard through tells you they're all over the shop.
Yeah.
Well, look, we've got plenty of comments coming in, guys. Let me take one little visit to them before we move on from Rangers. Your Loyal Muppet says, definitely unfair on Fergie. Who else would be unbeaten against Celtic, beat Josie, and nearly beat Bilbao? It's staring them in the face. Tom, after 1 a.m. in Shanghai, no mention of Muscat in the media here in Hong Kong for the last week. He's winning the league and on great bonuses. John points out League Cup semi-final between Celtic and Rangers less than 3 weeks away. The Sweeney says, Keith, you're spot on. Barry wouldn't say no. Derek says, if Gerrard's ship has sailed, 95% of the Gers fans now want McInnes. Ali wants Callum Davidson. It's an interesting shout. A lot of people as well pointing the finger at Kevin Thelwell. Rangers Easy OK says that bluffer Thelwell isn't even involved in picking the new manager. Going by the reports, we are literally crisis mode. Who's going to take the team on Saturday? Stevie Smith and Broxy? It's madness.
It's fascinating that, Daniel, that to see that the caller there mentioning that 95, if the Gerrard ship sailed, 95% now won Derek McInnes. How many of that 95% turned their noses up and sneered the last time when Derek McInnes was going to take the job after left Aberdeen?
It's a fair point.
Out of that time when it was first mooted.
As if to make things.
I think
even...
6 months of Russell Martin will do that to you.
I think so, though, but it just goes to show you, doesn't it, that some people are just not appreciated what they're doing. There's sometimes a snobbery around of this fancy name and that fancy name and that one, and that's not good enough for us. It's an attitude, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, actually it is.
Yeah, well, but I think with the Derek McInnes one as well, Swanee, that there might be an element of, this. It might be the right job, completely wrong time, because Rangers are in such a bad way. He's in Hearts. The place is flying. There's an opportunity for Derek McInnes to try and win a title at Tynecastle, do a mic drop in the summer, and then maybe by then Rangers have sorted themselves out and the Americans are taking it seriously. Because if he'd managed to pull that miracle off, surely to goodness everybody would look at it and say, well, he's the outstanding, obvious candidate, and it's a no-brainer.
Keith will be getting a job in English Premier League. I mean, Rangers, if he wins the title with
Brighton. He's the next Brighton boss.
I don't think you'd have to worry about Scottish football anymore.
Well, as if not to make it the need even more urgent, I think most teams in the Premiership anyway were back training today. Celtic were certainly back, Swanee. Big boost for them. Alistair Johnson back in training. I mean, he's been sorely missed, although Colby Donovan has performed really well. Anthony Ralston as well has probably been waiting for a chance for a long time. But he will really improve Celtic's defence when he's back. Yeah,
and one other point that I don't want to go too soon because I'm going to write something to this ilk tomorrow. But one thing that Alistair Johnson will also do is improve Celtic attacking-wise.
Yeah.
Because the right-hand side of the pitch hasn't functioned. Young Colby Donovan's that he's come in, he's done really well, he's taken the chance he's got. Tony Ralston doesn't let Celtic down, but Alistair Johnson underlapping, overlapping, hitting the byline, getting into the box. He just makes things work for Celtic down that side. And the relationship we had with Nicholas Kuhn last year was absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
Now, obviously Kuhn was away, he wasn't able to start that up this season, but he saw how well he worked with James Forrest in a couple of games earlier in the season as well. Just brings a whole new different dynamic to Celtic in an attacking sense. And to be fair, Celtic haven't flowed freely this season. They just haven't. And you can't afford guys like that not to be there. So I think Johnson has kind of a big impact at both ends of the pitch, and we all know how he defends with diligence, and he's tigerish in what he does. But I think his output going forward is very impressive as well, and I think that will really help Celtic.
Great point, Swanee. Because one of the things when you've been looking at Celtic this season, there's a lack of energy. It looks a little bit flat. Alistair Johnson's an absolute machine up down that side, and he lifts the energy levels. You've seen him do it in games. If it's getting a little bit flat, he'll just take off.
Yeah.
And he'll hit the byline, and as you said, whether it's Kuhn or James Forrest, whoever he's linking up with, he'll get down the outside, hit the byline. Many goals have you seen Celtic score from that? From Alistair Johnson getting to the byline.
Loads.
So that is a big weapon. You're right, Swan.
Yeah, Dyson made it when he played there in the last game I saw against Motherwell. Just was coming inside and wasn't really, but no one was getting around him. So when he did come inside, the whole thing was just congested. Whereas Alistair Johnson was running around the outside. Not only that, he may well have been making a run inside him, underlapping him into the penalty box, which would have prevented Dyson Maeda from even considering that move from coming inside because the path was already blocked. And just making decisions, making the minds of other players up with things that you do yourself.
Yeah, he's dynamic.
Yeah, creates a bit of panic when the left back sees the right back coming past him while he's looking at someone. So just makes things happen. I think he's such a good player. Alistair Johnson is so underrated by some people.
Completely agree with that, Swan.
You've seen the comments as well, Mark, pointing out Sriracha, captain of Uruguay. which is a big deal. You know, he was out the picture completely, and now he's back in and wearing the armband. The only other thing that I need to bring up before we wrap up the show, guys, tonight is Scotland. Obviously, we're just out of the international break, but we've had plenty of comments, Keith, on our two performances and two victories, it should be said, through the last week. Stephen O'Hearn says, I hear Steve Clark saying he was scratching his head after that abysmal performance. I was doing the same, wondering why I spent 35 quid. Surely those who attended should be given free admission to the Denmark match in some form of apology. William says that was an awful performance against Belarus. Clark has brought in a level of boredom to football. I could go on, Keith, but that's a flavour of how the Scotland fans are feeling.
Yeah, and we discussed it, didn't we? The other night, it was always going to be a negative reaction to two extremely negative performances. But the bottom line is, you know, we're saying there, you know, get us in free for the Denmark game and all that. Come on. This is a shootout potentially against Denmark to get to a World Cup for the first time in almost 3 decades. There'll be plenty of excitement around. It was just... I was actually quite pleased in a way because when we were on the show and Steve Clark, we hadn't heard him speak in his post-match stuff. And I was quite pleased because I thought he might, you know, go the managerial way of trying to tell people that black is white. He didn't. He kind of put his hands up. Said it just wasn't a good performance. It left him completely baffled as to why the performance level has dropped. But at least it was honest. Because he could have just said, well, I knew it was going to be a tough game and we've got 6 points out of 6 and we're in a great position in the group. Because that's the standard Steve Clark way of flatlining his way through these sort of situations. But he didn't. And by all accounts, in the dressing room, he got his point across to the players as well. And that's one of the good things, and I'm going to find a positive in all of this. That's one of the good things about Steve Clark. He's actually, in international football, it's a really difficult thing now. They're not your players. Very difficult to go through them in a dressing room because people just switch off and say, oh, is that right? I'll not be back up the road the next time if you've got to speak to me like that. But because he's been there for 6 and a bit years, because he's fostered this kind of like club mentality inside that, it actually enables him. He might be one of the few managers in international football that could get away with that. We're really giving them a rollicking because the levels of respect that these guys have got for him and that sort of camaraderie that's been built inside the dressing room. And other international teams, that stuff doesn't wash. So good on Steve Clark that he's kind of let a few people know that it's simply not good enough. And I'm really hopeful that in the next month's doubleheader, the kind of when this Group C comes to an absolute climax, that he'll get a bounce and a reaction out of these guys because they'll feel as if they've let him down. And there is that mutual respect and kind of feeling of responsibility for each other inside that squad. And not many international squads have it.
I just like the idea, Daniel, I like Stephen's idea. I was just thinking, if I get 35 quid back for every terrible game of football I've seen in the last 2 days, I'm treeing a hammock behind me.
That's a good shout, actually. I think we should look into that more. Actually, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
So before we, as
you
I
need
say,
to pay to get in first, Swan.
Good point.
We've had a few more positive comments in Scotland. Badger says it's about time we got the luck. Remember Italy game? Our free kick ref gives to Italy score.
Yep.
When they get no tournament, who cares? We get 6 points. AGSC says the Tartan Army were not fooled. We've seen this from Clark before. We qualified and he goes mega conservative. We tighten up and become passive. But Rebel, I think for me, kind of sums up how I feel. I'd rather we were guff and win rather than be the usual gallant loser. I mean,
that's it. We get that pointed at us all the time, don't we?
Exactly.
Great losers, heroic effort and all that. Well, this time it's gone the other way. And listen, all we talked about prior to the 2 games, and all we talked about after the first 2 games was 6 points. Please just give us 6 points. Just give us a shot at it. And we've got them.
Yeah.
And we're not happy. Like, no one is going to remember that performance against Belarus. No one is going to remember it if we get a point in Greece and beat Denmark. No one's even going to care.
Yeah, so we're guaranteed a playoff, Keith. As Swanee says, if we avoid defeat in Athens, we can then take the Denmark game at home as a shootout. who gets the
Yeah.
World Cup.
It's a bit disappointing, actually, because I had it in my head and I got this wrong. Well, I'm pretty certain I've got this wrong, so I've checked it today. But there was a part of me thought last night that the Greece game didn't even matter because I thought it would go to head.
It's goal difference, aye.
Yeah, I thought it was head 10. I thought it's just a one-game shootout with Denmark, but obviously,
Aye.
that's been altered this time for group winners. It'd be goal difference. So, bit of a shame. Means
I
we
know.
could get something in Greece probably, but
I
we
thought
could
it was
get
head-to-head as
one the
well.
last time, so why not?
Aye, definitely.
If we can sort of get the result we got against them last Thursday, given the way they played in the first hour, I'm quite sure we can get a result in Athens.
Sorry, Keith, I think I cut you off there. What were you going to come in?
No, it's fine. What was Rebel's point there? Because it was something that sprung to mind and then instantly vacated the premises.
Just saying I'd rather we were guff and win rather than be the usual gallant loser.
Yeah. Look, that's exactly it. Do we want Scotland to perform better than that? Yes, we do. No, it wasn't that comment. It was the other one I was going to say. I completely agree with the comment that said that Steve Clarke has a habit of doing this. We get good form, we build momentum, and then we reach a competition and the handbrake suddenly, yank back on us. I've got a funny feeling that wouldn't work like that this time. That this is Steve Clarke's last chance at it. That he must have regrets. He does regret some of the performances that he's put on, his team's put on at the Euros, the two successive champs. It was, brilliant just to be there because we hadn't been there. Then you get there, and it was, especially the second one, I thought lessons should have been learned. I thought that Scotland should have been far more aggressive in Germany, and we weren't, and that was on the manager, no question about it. I don't think he'll make the same set of mistakes again if we were to get to a World Cup. It's Steve Clarke's last hurrah. It'll be his last campaign, and I think he goes out with all guns blazing. I certainly would like to think so. So I'm actually, if we can get there, I'd actually be a lot more excited about what we might look like in the finals than certainly what we have done in the two previous ones.
Are you guys both confident?
After them in 100-degree heat.
Yeah, well, there is that.
Walking pace.
At the end of a 70-game season.
Are you guys both confident we will get there? We'll do it?
I'm going to stick with it, yeah. I just think that victory against the Greeks was such a freakish event that it tells me that our luck's turned. And after years of kind of just nothing but grief and these things working against us, for us to play as badly as we have done in those two games and take a full set of 6 points away from them, I just get the feeling, yeah. And I believe in the players. And do you know what? I know he gets a hard time. I believe in the manager as well. But I look at the quality we've got, and when push really comes to shove now in these two games against Greece and Denmark, I think these boys will be really up for it. I think they will understand the size and scale of the opportunity. And I think there's a fair bit of kind of recognition amongst them that it's been so long, these chances don't come around. You might think it's only another 4 years, but for a good few of these players that are key players for us, if it's not now, if it is 4 years, well, 4 years' time, they're going to be nowhere near the level that they're at just now. So it does feel as if it's now or never for this particular group of players. And I don't think they'll let the opportunity pass them by.
Yeah, and I also think, Keith, maybe things, fate and the way things work out, the way these results have gone, that's obviously Greece out the equation. I'm sure they've got pride and such like, but is coach going to change it up? Is he going to bring younger players in? I say that they brought younger players in at Hampden, didn't they, in the Nations League in Martin?
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah. But motivation might not be.
Bring back Sotiris Kyrgiakos.
Yeah, maybe I'm clutching at straws here, but if you can just get it to the last night with a chance, but I've beaten Denmark. Listen, Scotland are going to be under pressure and they're going to be nervous. So Denmark are the ones that are going away from home, and they would need to get a result, and they would be feeling it just as much as we would. Yeah. So once it gets into that, once you get into that realm of the last game shootout and you've got it at home, then, and I know it would be a different game from Copenhagen. We're able to sit in Copenhagen and ask them to come and make the game. And I always find Scotland are a wee bit more, when you play a better standard of team, if you come out a little bit, you leave yourself exposed to being picked off. I've always said that I felt the game against Denmark might be more dangerous at Hampden than what it would be at Copenhagen, because I thought we could sit in and do what we did in Copenhagen, and a point was an acceptable result. if you then need to go and win the game, it asks a different question. You have to play a different way. It might open some space for the Danes. But I just think in that last game, they would be nervy as well. They'd be stressed as well. And as Keith said, it's maybe just written for us this time. Certainly the way the first 4 games have gone would suggest, yes, that is the case.
I'll take that all day long, Swanee. That's why I was so delighted that you're on the show tonight.
Yeah.
Positivity,
that's me, Keith.
That's it. I think that's a
shining light of optimism.
I'm glad you get those letters in the middle there.
Well, look, guys, I think that's a perfect note to end tonight's Hotline Live on. Thank you so much for everyone watching at home. The comments again have been top notch. Really appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. I hope you can join us then. It's Swanee. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
You too. And Keith, see you tomorrow.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for watching at home. Hope you enjoy us tomorrow. Cheers.